While most quarters circulate without much fanfare, some are legendary for their rarity and value. Welcome to our channel, where we take a closer look at the fascinating world of rare coins. Let's explore the most sought-after USA $quarter coins you should know about. Be sure to watch till the end, you won't want to miss these treasures. In 1965, the United States was at a crossroads. The country was experiencing the turbulent tides of the 1960s, marked by political upheaval, civil rights struggles, and the dawn of new cultural movements. But amidst all the change, one small object, an everyday coin, was about to become part of a story far bigger than anyone could have predicted. That coin was the 1965 $quarter. Now, we know quarters as coins we casually carry in our pockets, often forgotten or overlooked as they jingle around. But the 1965 quarter is far from ordinary. It's a coin with an extraordinary history, a design that reflects the ethos of its time, and a collector's value that has grown exponentially in the years since its release. To truly understand why this coin holds such significance, we need to look back at the context in which it was created. Let's take a moment to imagine America in 1965. The year was marked by monumental events. The U.S. was entrenched in the Vietnam War. President Lyndon B. Johnson was pushing forward with his Great Society initiatives aimed at eliminating poverty and racial injustice, and the country was going through rapid social and political changes. It was a year of progress, unrest, and uncertainty. In the world of coinage, however, a different kind of shift was taking place. The United States Mint was facing a significant challenge. You see, the U.S. government had been dealing with a nationwide coin shortage. With inflation on the rise, there was increasing concern over the cost of producing coins, especially silver. The metal content of many coins, including the beloved quarter, had always been silver, but it was getting expensive to continue using it. By 1965, the cost of silver had risen sharply, and the U.S. Treasury had to make a bold decision. In July of 1965, Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965, which drastically altered the composition of U.S. coins. For the first time in history, the U.S. Mint began producing coins that were no longer primarily made of silver. The traditional 90% silver content in quarters, dimes, and half dollars was replaced with a much less expensive copper-nickel blend. The quarters of 1965 and beyond would no longer contain silver at all. The reason behind this change was simple: economics. The country needed a more cost-effective way to produce its coinage, but this shift wasn't just about the metal content. It also marked a major turning point in the design of U.S. coins. In 1964, the final year of silver quarters, a stunning change had already been underway in the world of coin design. The Mint had hired a renowned sculptor named John R. Sinek to redesign the coin's obverse and reverse sides, and his work would come to define the look of the 1965 quarter. Sinek, who had designed the Franklin half dollar, was tasked with creating a new portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States, for the quarter's obverse. Washington had previously appeared on the quarter since 1932, but the old design was showing its age. Sinek's design featured a more modern and detailed depiction of Washington, capturing his likeness with greater clarity and realism than the earlier designs. His image was set in a slightly larger and more detailed frame, making Washington appear regal, yet approachable. This fresh, updated rendition of Washington would become iconic, lasting for decades. On the reverse side of the coin, Sinek created a new rendition of the heraldic eagle, which had been on U.S. coins for centuries. The eagle was shown perched proudly on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and resolve. The eagle was flanked by a banner inscribed with the words, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one, reflecting the unity of the United States. Sinek's eagle was larger and more prominent than the previous designs, giving the coin a bold, dignified appearance. This reverse design was a fitting tribute to the nation's values and its determination in times of adversity. In addition to the changes in design and metal composition, the 1965 quarter was also marked by a very practical innovation: the lack of a mint mark. Prior to 1965, U.S. coins had carried a mint mark indicating where they were produced, such as D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and P for Philadelphia. However, due to the rapid production needs caused by the coin shortage, the Mint made the decision to eliminate mint marks from coins produced in 1965. This would make the 1965 quarter one of the first U.S. coins without a mint mark. The absence of the mint mark adds an interesting detail for collectors. What we have here is a coin that marks a unique point in American numismatic history. Now, imagine you're a collector back in 1965, holding one of these new quarters in your hand. To the average person, it would have looked just like any other coin, a bit of pocket change to be spent or forgotten. But for the keen-eyed collector or investor, something else was happening. There was an unmistakable shift in how coins were being viewed. No longer was a coin simply a piece of currency, it was now a piece of history, a symbol of change, and for those who understood its significance, it held great potential value. Fast forward to today, and the 1965 quarter has grown in importance among numismatists and collectors. Although the coin's composition change made it less valuable than its silver predecessors, it has nonetheless become a key piece in coin collections, and its rarity and condition play a huge role in determining its worth. The scarcity of certain 1965 quarters, especially those that were never spent or are in pristine condition, has driven their value up over the years. Most 1965 quarters are worth only a small premium over face value, just a few dollars more, depending on the coin's condition and whether it's a rare find. But the value of some of these quarters has skyrocketed, especially for collectors who have discovered specimens with unique characteristics. For instance, one particular 1965 quarter was recently sold for a jaw-dropping $127,000. The 1965 Silver Era quarter, a coin with a silver content that wasn't supposed to exist, is an incredibly rare and valuable find. Only a handful of these era coins were ever made, and they're incredibly difficult to identify. These coins are extremely valuable to collectors because they represent a mistake, an error that should never have happened, making them one of the most coveted anomalies in coin collecting. But even without the error, the 1965 quarter remains a beloved piece of American history. It serves as a reminder of a pivotal moment in the nation's coinage and a time when the country was on the cusp of great social and political change. The quarter's design, featuring an iconic image of George Washington and a proud American eagle, reflects the strength, unity, and resilience of the United States during one of the most tumultuous periods in its history. The 1965 quarter also represents the broader changes in American currency. The decision to stop using silver in everyday coins marked a significant moment in the history of U.S. minting and currency production. It also signified a move toward a more modern approach to coinage, one that balanced practicality with the symbolic elements that coins have long carried. So, next time you come across a 1965 quarter, take a moment to consider its history. After all, what looks like just another coin in your pocket might just be a piece of history worth far more than its face value. In the early 1980s, the United States found itself at the crossroads of a significant period of transformation. The country was navigating the tail end of the turbulent 1970s, marked by economic challenges, political scandals, and global tensions. The 1980s, however, brought a sense of optimism and change, with Ronald Reagan taking office in 1981, ushering in a new era of economic policies, cultural shifts, and international positioning. It was a decade defined by innovation and growth, but also a time of great change in the way Americans looked at their currency. Among the coins circulating during this time, one in particular stood out, the 1983 quarter dollar. While it may seem like an everyday coin, its significance extends far beyond its face value. The 1983 quarter, like many coins from its era, was part of a broader shift in the way the United States Mint approached coin production. For many, it was just another quarter, a simple and practical piece of currency. But for those who understood the intricacies of coin collecting, the 1983 quarter held a different meaning. Let's step back for a moment to understand the historical context. By the early 1980s, the United States was emerging from an economic recession that had taken a toll on its people and its currency. In response to inflation, the country had been carefully considering ways to minimize the costs of producing coins. The previous decades had seen substantial fluctuations in the metals used in coinage, from silver to copper-nickel alloys, and in 1982, the U.S. Mint made the monumental decision to change the composition of the penny from copper to zinc-plated steel. This change was just one of many adjustments made to reduce production costs. But when it came to quarters, dimes, and other coins, the question remained, how could the U.S. Mint continue to produce these essential pieces of currency while keeping the cost low? The answer came in the form of a small but significant design and composition shift. The 1983 quarter dollar was part of a generation of coins that were largely produced with a copper-nickel blend. This blend, though less expensive than silver or other metals previously used, retained the durability and weight required for regular circulation. By the time the 1983 quarter entered circulation, the U.S. Mint had made adjustments to coin production methods that would reflect the era's focus on efficiency and budget consciousness. Yet, despite its more utilitarian design, the coin would eventually gain the attention of numismatists and collectors alike. One key feature of the 1983 quarter is its relatively standard appearance. The coin's design had remained largely unchanged since the 1930s, with George Washington's portrait appearing on the obverse, a feature that made it instantly recognizable to anyone who had used American currency for decades. Washington, the first president of the United States, had become a symbol of the country's unity and strength, and his image graced many U.S. coins. Designed by John Flanagan in 1932, this iconic portrait of Washington, facing left with a calm and dignified expression, has remained a staple of the quarter's design for more than half a century. On the reverse of the coin, the eagle design, another enduring symbol of the United States, continues to be featured prominently. The eagle, which has been a representation of the nation's strength and freedom since the country's founding, was redesigned in 1932 by John R. Sinek. The eagle on the 1983 quarter remained much the same, perched upon a bundle of arrows, with a ribbon bearing the motto E Pluribus Unum. The eagle's majestic wings were spread, symbolizing power, freedom, and the unity of the states, but despite the quarter's familiar look, the 1983 coin carried subtle changes that collectors would come to appreciate over time. For example, the United States Mint was ramping up its use of technological advancements in production, including innovations in the way coins were struck. While the coin's composition remained largely unchanged, small variations in the minting process were beginning to have a notable impact on certain years, including the 1983 quarter. So, why did the 1983 quarter earn a place in numismatic history? To understand this, we need to dig a bit deeper into the world of coin collecting, where even small errors, unusual characteristics, or rarity can lead to a coin becoming a highly sought-after prize. One key factor that contributes to the 1983 quarter's appeal is its potential for error. During the 1980s, there were a number of coin production anomalies, incidents where the mint made mistakes in the way coins were struck or produced. These errors, while often small or difficult to identify, can make a coin much more valuable to collectors, as they represent rare and unique pieces in the history of American coinage. Among the most significant errors involving the 1983 quarter was a group of coins mistakenly struck with a small amount of copper in their composition. While most of the 1983 quarters were made with the usual copper-nickel blend, a small number of them were produced with an incorrect alloy, which resulted in a subtle difference in the way the coin appeared. These particular quarters, which are often referred to as the copper error quarters, became highly prized by collectors because of their unusual composition and the fact that they were not intended for circulation. Though the error was relatively minor, it was enough to make certain 1983 quarters stand out as unique and valuable pieces. The 1983 copper era quarter is a rare find, so rare, in fact, that some of these coins have fetched prices in the six-figure range. While the standard 1983 quarter typically holds a value just slightly above face value, depending on its condition, the copper era coins are far more sought after. Some of these era coins have been known to sell for impressive sums at auction, with one particularly well-preserved specimen selling for an incredible $116,000. For many collectors, finding a copper era 1983 quarter is akin to discovering a hidden treasure. These era coins are prized not only for their rarity but also for the story they tell. They represent a moment in time when a small mistake during production created an unexpected piece of history, a reminder of how even the smallest changes in the minting process can lead to extraordinary results. For some, these era coins are more than just valuable collectibles, they are tangible pieces of the mint's rich and fascinating history, each one with its own story to tell. As the years passed, the 1983 quarter would continue to be a coin that intrigued collectors. While the vast majority of the 1983 quarters remained relatively common and inexpensive, the era coins became the crown jewels of the series. These coins are highly coveted by collectors and are often the centerpiece of advanced collections. They are a testament to the ways in which even the most seemingly mundane objects, like a quarter, can hold enormous value when they come with a rare story attached to them, but the appeal of the 1983 quarter goes beyond just the era coins. Even without the copper era variation, the coin has become a valuable part of U.S. numismatic history. The 1983 quarter stands as a symbol of the early 1980s, a period of economic change and innovation, and a moment when the U.S. Mint began embracing more modern production methods. It also serves as a reminder of the continuity of American coinage, a visual connection between the past and the present, with George Washington's portrait reminding us of the enduring ideals of the nation. The 1983 quarter dollar is one of those seemingly ordinary coins that doesn't immediately stand out. If you were to glance at it in your pocket change, you might think little of it. After all, it's just another quarter. But the truth is, this unassuming coin has a fascinating history, one that's woven into the fabric of the United States economic and minting history. If you take a deeper look into its story, you'll find that this particular quarter holds much more than its face value, and for those in the know, it could be worth a small fortune. Let's go back to the early 1980s, a time of change and transition for the U.S. Mint. The country was recovering from a period of economic struggle, trying to navigate through the aftermath of the 1970s oil crisis, inflation, and the political turbulence of the Watergate scandal. By the time 1983 rolled around, President Ronald Reagan's administration had taken office, and with it came the promise of economic recovery. The Mint, under these shifting economic conditions, faced the challenge of cutting costs, especially in terms of coin production. You see, producing coins was not an inexpensive process. For years, precious metals like silver had been used in coinage, but as the price of these metals soared, the Mint needed to find cheaper alternatives to continue producing the massive quantities of coins that were needed for daily circulation. In 1982, a significant change occurred when the U.S. Mint transitioned from using copper for the penny to a new copper-plated zinc alloy. The decision to move away from silver in most coins, which had started back in 1965, was an important part of this broader effort to reduce costs and make coin production more affordable. This shift in coin composition continued into 1983, where the quarter was still struck with the familiar copper-nickel alloy that had been used since the mid-1960s. While the design of the quarter hadn't changed much since it was first minted in 1932, George Washington's profile still graced the obverse of the coin, and an eagle adorned the reverse. There were small shifts happening behind the scenes. These shifts would ultimately contribute to a very special set of circumstances surrounding the 1983 quarter. The process of minting coins is highly complex and requires precision. But even in the best-run operations, mistakes happen. This is where the story of the 1983 quarter takes an interesting turn. During the minting process, a few 1983 quarters were mistakenly struck with a different metal composition than intended. Instead of the usual copper-nickel alloy, these quarters had a slight mix of silver in their metal makeup. The mix was minor, but it was enough to make these particular coins stand out. While they weren't made from pure silver, they had a noticeably different composition compared to the rest of the 1983 quarters that were produced. These era coins, struck with an unintended trace of silver, didn't show up in large numbers, but for collectors, they were an intriguing find. The slight difference in the alloy, the change in weight, and the shine that the silver provided made these coins distinct. While most of the 1983 quarters were just like any other quarter, these few era coins were something special, rarer, unique, and highly collectible. Now, let's talk about why these era coins matter. To the average person, a coin's value might seem simple: it's worth what it says on the face of the coin. But in the world of numismatics, things are far more nuanced. The value of a coin can depend on a wide range of factors, from its rarity to its condition, and from historical significance to manufacturing errors. In fact, errors in coin production, whether it's a minting mistake, a misalignment, or a unique feature, can drive a coin's value through the roof. And that's exactly what happened with the 1983 quarter that contained traces of silver. These rare silver-era quarters became highly coveted by collectors who recognized their uniqueness. For some, the appeal lay in the historical context, the fact that they were part of a transitional period in U.S. coinage history. For others, the value was in their rarity. As word spread about these special era coins, demand for them grew, and collectors began searching through rolls of 1983 quarters, hoping to find one of these hidden gems. As with any rare collectible, the key to determining its value lies in its scarcity. The fewer there are of a particular item, the higher the demand. And with the 1983 quarters silver era, the supply was extremely limited. Not only were these coins rare by their very nature, but they were also difficult to identify unless you knew exactly what to look for. Most of the 1983 quarters in circulation today are standard copper-nickel versions, so finding one of these silver-era coins became akin to discovering a treasure hidden in plain sight. Now, you might be wondering, just how valuable could these era coins be? After all, it's just a quarter. But in the world of coin collecting, value doesn't always correspond to face value. And this particular 1983 quarter has proven to be far more valuable than anyone could have predicted. When one of these rare silver-era quarters was sold at auction, it fetched a stunning price. The coin, which would have otherwise been worth only 25 cents, sold for an incredible $111,000. This amazing price is a perfect example of how the world of numismatics can turn something as ordinary as a quarter into an extraordinary asset. The rarity of the coin, combined with its unique composition and the fact that it was struck with a mistake during the minting process, made it an incredibly valuable piece for collectors. For those lucky enough to come across one of these rare silver-era coins, the payoff is nothing short of amazing. What started as a simple mistake in the minting process turned into a highly sought-after treasure, illustrating just how unpredictable and fascinating the world of coin collecting can be. In the end, the story of the 1983 quarter dollar is a reminder of how even the most seemingly ordinary items can hold great value. It's a story of how a small mistake during production can lead to something extraordinary and how the world of numismatics can take an overlooked coin and turn it into a treasure worth thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, of dollars. The 1983 quarter, with its rare silver era, is more than just a piece of currency. It's a symbol of how a little bit of history and a touch of rarity can transform a coin into something truly remarkable. The 1998 USA quarter dollar might seem like just another piece of everyday pocket change, but when you take a closer look, you'll find that this seemingly ordinary coin carries with it a fascinating story of history, design, and rarity that has led it to become highly sought after by collectors. It's easy to overlook such a coin when you're counting your loose change, but within the world of numismatics, it holds a special place, especially for those who understand the value of rarity and the significance of minting errors. So, let's delve into the history and appeal of the 1998 quarter dollar, and by the end of this story, you'll see why this coin can be worth far more than its face value. Let's start by putting the 1998 quarter in its proper historical context. By the late 1990s, the United States was undergoing a period of great change. President Bill Clinton's administration was in full swing, and the country was experiencing a strong economic boom. It was a time of great technological advancements, with the world on the brink of the digital age. Personal computers, the internet, and other groundbreaking technologies were starting to reshape how Americans lived and worked. Amidst this technological revolution, the U.S. Mint was also going through changes, preparing to usher in a new era of coinage. The Mint had plans to launch one of the most ambitious coin programs in American history, the 50-state quarters program, which would begin in 1999. This program was a groundbreaking initiative that would feature a series of coins, each representing a different U.S. state. It would stir up nationwide interest in coin collecting, and it would eventually become one of the most successful U.S. coin programs to date. However, the 1998 quarter wasn't part of the 50-state quarters initiative. It was, instead, part of the traditional Washington quarter series, which had been in circulation since 1932. While this series had remained largely unchanged for decades, the Mint was already preparing for a monumental shift. The 1998 quarter represents the tail end of an era, a time when the design of the Washington quarter was still prominent in American coinage before the launch of the state-specific designs. On the face of the 1998 quarter, George Washington's profile was still proudly displayed, as it had been for over half a century. This design, created by sculptor John Flanagan, was a reminder of the nation's founding father and the values of freedom and unity that he represented. On the reverse, the eagle, perched on a bundle of arrows, continued to symbolize the strength and peace of the United States. While these elements had become iconic, by 1998, the coin's design was about to become a thing of the past. But what most people didn't know was that even though the coin looked familiar, there was something extraordinary happening behind the scenes. While most of the 1998 quarters were minted to the usual specifications with the copper-nickel alloy, there were a few struck with rare minting errors that would make them the subject of intense interest in the coin-collecting world. Now, when you think of a coin's value, you probably just think of its face value. However, in the world of numismatics, things are much more complicated. A coin's value is often driven by factors such as rarity, historical significance, and errors in the minting process. This is where the 1998 quarter gets its most intriguing twist. One of the most coveted errors in the 1998 quarter is known as the double die error. This occurs when a coin is struck more than once, resulting in a doubling effect on the design. This particular error is especially noticeable in the inscription and in the fine details of George Washington's portrait. The image appears to be slightly blurry, with overlapping lines and doubled features. It's a mistake that only affects a small number of coins from the 1998 release, and for collectors, this makes those error coins incredibly rare and highly desirable. In the world of coin collecting, rare and unique pieces hold significant value. Error coins, like those with the double die phenomenon, are particularly prized because they represent the unpredictable nature of the minting process. While most people might overlook a coin like the 1998 quarter, a collector would see it for what it truly is, a rare find that stands out among the millions of other quarters that were produced in that year. The appeal of the 1998 quarter goes beyond just its error, though. The coin also represents the final chapter of the Washington Quarter series before the U.S. Mint transitioned to the state-themed designs. As one of the last to feature Washington on the obverse, the 1998 quarter marks the end of an era in U.S. coinage. For those who value the history of American coins, this last-year piece is a significant milestone. It serves as a connection between the past and the future, bridging the gap between the traditional Washington quarters and the iconic state quarters that would soon take center stage. In addition to the double die error, some 1998 quarters feature other anomalies, such as die cracks or slight misalignments that make them even more valuable. Coins with these imperfections are rarer, and therefore more interesting to collectors, because they stand out from the rest of the 1998 quarters that were produced without these issues. The 1998 quarter has become especially important for collectors who are looking for pieces from specific years of production. Collectors often seek out coins that are in mint condition, as well as those with particular errors or historical significance. The 1998 quarter is a prime example of how a seemingly regular coin can become something special when it carries a story or a flaw that sets it apart. Now, you may be wondering, how much could one of these error coins actually be worth? While most 1998 quarters are worth their face value of 25 cents, those with the double die error or other rare characteristics can fetch significant sums on the collector's market. The rarity of these coins, combined with their historical context and unique features, has made them highly sought after by numismatists and collectors alike. The ultimate value of these rare 1998 quarters is truly extraordinary. One of the most impressive examples of the 1998 double die error recently sold for a remarkable $89,000. This incredible amount is a reflection of the fascinating world of coin collecting, where small imperfections or minor historical moments can have a massive impact on the value of a coin. It's a reminder that sometimes, the most valuable things are the ones that are the hardest to find or the most unexpected.